Welcome to our 10-minute review of the muscles. Now, I am going to review in a second, but it's only going to be about 2 minutes long. The reason for that is, if you look at the notes section, you're going to have a login to this website, Axial Anatomy, and it's going to have links to this page and a second page. So what I want you to do, go to facial muscles in the scalp and click on upper and lower facial muscles. And it's going to play short videos. And we did most of these muscles, so just watch most of them. We didn't do nasal muscles, which is the last one, so watch it if you want. You don't have to. So I figured this would be a better review. So look where the muscles are and try to figure out what the muscles are doing. So it talks about its insertion, where it's doing the pulling from, R2, and its origin, where it's pulling from. But it doesn't really talk about the action, so think about what that action would be. Now the second link is taking you here. We're not worrying about the spine yet. But muscle cutaneous structures of the thorax. Scroll down. We've already done all of these right here. We're not here yet. But we talked about the diaphragm, the muscles of inspiration, and the muscles of expiration. So look at those. Same thing here. Abdominal muscles, rectus abdominis, transverse internal oblique, external oblique. And watch for the layering. And then psoas, because everybody's heard about it. Let's see where that is. And erector spinaea. Again, I don't really care about the quadrates. Watch me pull it in my run tomorrow. So instead of spending 10 minutes on the review, I figured those videos are better for you. They're showing you real cadavers, where they're attached to, and they're high-quality videos. Now, we did have some vocabulary terms. We talked about how muscles are in groups. And I'll ask you one of those group names. We have the prime mover, our agonist, that's doing the desired action. So the rectus femoris right here is going to be inserting there. It's going to extend the lower leg. That would be the prime mover for extension of the lower leg. The antagonist is what counteracts it. So the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and biceps femoris would be the antagonist for that. Synergists are stabilizer. Remember I talked about all these muscles in the lower hip. They said don't worry that much about them. I take that back. I will talk about all these muscles in the hip. Those muscles are stabilizing the leg. They actually don't know what they do, but they're leg stabilizers. Same thing for your shoulder. You have all these muscles that stabilize the shoulder while you are doing things with your arm. So I'll ask you one of these three terms. And then we talked about insertions, origins, and actions. The insertion is the end that should move. So the biceps brachii, its insertion to the radial tuberosity, that's the end that should move. Now the biceps is going to have an action here on the shoulder just because it is actually attached to the coracoid process. But that's the end that generally wouldn't move. If we look at the brachialis, it's attached to the humerus. It's not going to move. So this is the origin. Then the action is what it does. Most muscles move at the insertion. A couple of them have actions at the origin. So the action, the biceps brachii, the brachialis, and the brachioradialis all flex. So I'll ask you those. Another thing that the videos aren't going to really do is they'll talk about layering. I'm going to ask you about the layering in the neck. I'm going to ask you about the layering between the ribs. I'm going to ask you about the layering of the abdominal muscles. So the neck muscles, sternocleidomastoid, my favorite. We have the sternohyoid right there, stabilizing the hyoid bone, so that would be a synergist. And the myohyoid and this digastric, I think that's the digastric, are going to open your mouth. So that's the neck muscles that I don't think it's going to really talk about. Now we have layering here. The pectoralis minor and the serratus anterior are on the ribs. They are stabilizing the scapula. We have the external intercostals being the outer one. And then the internal intercostals are on the inside. Then there's a muscle called the transverse thoracics. That's actually on the inside of the rib cage. So you need to know where these muscles are in relationship to each other. So serratus anterior and pectoralis minor outside of rib cage. I guess the scalenes I should add to that too, that I attached to the first rib. Intercostals between the ribs. Transverse thoracics inside of the rib cage. Same thing here. I spent a lot of time coloring in those pictures, waiting for a delayed flight. So the rectus abdominis with the transverse intersections and the linea alba are right here. And all of the muscles here are going to actually attach there. So here's the rectus abdominis, the external oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis are right here. They're all going to attach to the linea alba. So of the layering, transverse abdominis, transverse, it's the deepest. We then had the internal oblique, which is going upwards. So see how it's going upwards on that side? There's the transverse abdominis. And finally, the external oblique is coming downwards. Lastly, just to clarify, on the lecture exam, I'll ask you what the muscles do. I'll ask you the layering. I'll ask you about the relationship between those neck muscles and opening your mouth. I'll be like, what muscles help you open your mouth? What helps you close your mouth? So it's going to be the functions of the muscles. Lab exam, I'm going to ask you, what is this muscle? Well, it's on the ribs. That must be the pectoralis minor. Then there's going to be separate activities for the actions and the insertions and the origins. I'm sorry, I was reading this. It's going to be the origins and the insertions. We are actually not going to have a lab. We're going to do 3 muscle labs. And then there's going to be a break from lab where I'm going to let you get caught up on all this muscle stuff that you actually have to do. So that is our 10-minute review. I actually spent 6 minutes talking, I guess. For next class, I'm actually just going to post the links to Ackland. And same idea, go to the website, watch their videos on it. Thank you.